Okay, guys. So today we are going to talk about the different. First of all, different settings file in Jenkins. Okay, and then we are going to get started off with understanding the prime concept of Jenkins, that is jobs, and what are jobs, how to configure them, what are the different things we have to configure while writing a job, what are different types of jobs, and various other things. So let's first understand the directory of the Jenkins, where the Jenkins is installed. Now in my case, my Jenkins is there in this Jenkins 1 folder, and do you see this a war file out here? So this basically a war file which runs the Jenkins server. Okay, and here there is one important file which is jenkins.xml file. So basically this file contains different settings related to Jenkins. Now what do I mean by settings? Let's go down and see here. The Jenkins is defined as a service here, service open tag, service close tag. Okay, now inside this you will find the different configurations of Jenkins as a service. So this is the ID and name. So this name is something which we see for Jenkins service in our services. Let me go to this services section. Yeah, see here, Jenkins service name is Jenkins here, which is because of this name. Then there is a Jenkins home. So Jenkins home is where we have the Jenkins installed. So now let me copy this path and take you to that location. So here we have got the Jenkins. All the data of Jenkins is stored in this directory. Okay. Now if you see, there are a lot of things like the user, whatever the users you will create, those users would be stored in this, right? So whatever the jobs we will create now, jobs are like pipelines, so those would be stored inside this jobs folder out here. Plugins, whatever the plugins we will download and install, those would be installed inside this. These are the the secret key which we don't need, by the way, outside while connecting to the Jenkins, but it needs it for its own purpose. So these are the different files out here in this folder where we have the Jenkins. The main concern for us is this jobs folder. Whenever we will start creating our jobs, we would be getting those jobs saved in this folder. Okay, now let's talk about other settings in this file. Now do you see here, this is the Java which Jenkins used, and we provided this Java location when we basically installed Jenkins, right? So now let me just correct this particular. So there was a double slash out here, I just corrected it. Then these are a few arguments to this Java exe. So Jenkins basically starts its server like this. I'll show you that command also. So Java, basically a Java command space, and then it provides these arguments, like how much memory the Jenkins want to allocate for its server. So Sampada, if you remember, we had configured this setting on your machine for Nexus, right? So there you were facing an issue while starting up a Nexus server, and we just changed the value of this setting on your system that time, right? So this is the maximum memory, the Jenkins or the particular Java process would like to allocate for itself. Then this is the main thing, -jar space and the war file. So this war file which I had shown you just now, let me go to that again, directory C:, and Jenkins 1. So this is the war file. So war is web application archive. So inside this war they have bundled this server, Jenkins server, and basically we start that Jenkins server like this. So Java space -jar and then the war file, right? And then we provide the port. So which port we want our Jenkins server to listen to, right? And yeah, this is it. I mean, these are the arguments basically to this executable, Java executable. So Java executable has these as arguments, and this is how our Jenkins server starts. So I can start the Jenkins server from command line also. Okay, I'll show you that. Let me stop the service, otherwise it will give me the issue that that 8083 port is already in use. So that error I'll get if I don't stop it, because that service is also listening to this 8083 port, right? So now let me hit enter. So now it is starting the Jenkins server. So I'll say allow access. So in this way also we can start the Jenkins server. See here, Jenkins is up and running, and now let me go and refresh this page. Yes, so the page is getting refreshed. So you can either set up Jenkins through a MSI file, right, which we had done. This MSI file, I will show you that again, the one which we had downloaded and installed the Jenkins. So let me show you DevOps. Yeah, here this is the file which we executed to install Jenkins. This is one way. Another way would be to download the war file. So we can download the jenkins.war file, only this war file. We can download this war file and we can start Jenkins with the help of this command which I just executed. So this is also possible, right? So there are different ways to install Jenkins. One way through MSI and another way through that war file. So I am currently installing Jenkins through war file. Okay, so now it is asking me for this administrator password, okay, which I can see here. If you guys remember, when we had installed it through MSI, we had taken that password from this file. We had opened this file, so that Jenkins installation, that MSI wizard also shows us, right? So we had taken it from there. Right now, when you install it from command line with the help of war file, also you get this password. So just put it here and let's say continue. I would say install suggested plugins. And and let it install. So you can see here all the logs you will be able to see here on this console. You know, like when you have started Jenkins, you know, as a command from a command line, basically using a war, you would be able to see all the logging here on the command prompt. So I am able to see it here. See, we can see here the download failed, or whatever the things we get errors, so we can see those errors here. So you can install Jenkins using a war file also, not a problem. Through MSI or through war file. Basically, when you run this service, Jenkins internally execute this command only. I just executed it from outside admin, right? So that is also possible. Here just Jenkins has been configured as a service. So when you start the service, Jenkins actually executes this file, I mean the settings mentioned in this file, and then you get the Jenkins up and running there. Right, so anyway you would be able to do it. I will show you from where you can download the war file. You can download the war file. See, just wait. There is another link. Yeah, so here you can download the Jenkins war file from here. This is the released latest version. This one released on 22/03. So you can download the war file from here, and you can simply execute the command which I executed. Java space -jar, the path of the war file, and then you can provide the port. That's it. So it will run the Jenkins for you. Right, so this is another way to install the Jenkins. So I'm just waiting for it to complete. I'm still having the issues with the plugin, so which we will sort out. I mean, I know the problem and I know the solution, but I want to show you that also how you can solve, because if it happened to you also, like currently you guys are not having any issues in the installations, but if you face these issues, then how to troubleshoot it. Troubleshooting I already had talked about yesterday, but still how to solve that issue is something which we have not yet talked about, which I would be talking about and would show you also. But for now, let's ignore this and continue. So let's create a username. The same steps which we had performed. And let's save and continue. Okay, save and finish. So start using Jenkins. Correct. So we are here again on the dashboard. Now let's talk about the other settings also, and also about the jobs. But before going to the job understanding, let's talk about the other settings from this Manage Jenkins section. Yesterday we had discussed about this plugin section. Now let's talk about this install as Windows service. So if you click on this, so it will install Jenkins as a service. Service is this Windows service, which we already have it, by the way. But if let's say you started Jenkins using a war file, and then if you want to have it installed as a service, then you can do it from here, right? So you can install the Jenkins as a service. When you install it through MSI file, that MSI installation wizard shows you an option to whether you would like to install Jenkins as a service or not there. But if you have started Jenkins server through war file, the way I started just now, and now you want to have Jenkins to be installed as a service. Now there is a advantage of installing Jenkins as a service. I will tell you that also. Now let's say I have started right now Jenkins with the help of the war command, and if I restart the machine, or if I close this down, this the command prompt, and I restart my machine. Now if I want to start the Jenkins, I need to again open the command prompt and run the same command. So this I need to do it again and again. Instead of that, what I can do is I can install Jenkins as a service, which would be running as one of the Windows service, and then even if I restart the machine, if the Jenkins service properties here, if the startup type is automatic, so it means like whenever you will restart the system, a Jenkins service, it will start the Jenkins service, and you will have your Jenkins server up even after the restart. So there is an advantage to this, to install the Jenkins as a service. Then comes, let's scroll down and let's talk about this security. Okay, now let me just
Pranati, so let's say if we are not installing through war file, then we will not get that option, I suppose, right? That is install Jenkins as a service.
It will still have, you will still have it, but if you click on that, then maybe it will say that you already have it installed as a service.
Yeah, because logged into Jenkins and clicked on manage Jenkins, then I'm not able to see this option called install as Windows.
Yeah, because you already have it installed as a service, right? While installing it through MSI.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what. When you install it through MSI, it already asks you there whether you would like to install it as a service. So if you have, set it true, then definitely you will not see here.
Okay. So, like, what is the main advantage of installing as Windows service?
So that's what I mentioned. Currently I am having my Jenkins running like this. Okay, by executing this command. I executed this command. Just a minute. Let me show that to you again. So that command was java space -jar, the path of the war, say Jenkins .war, and then --http port and 8083. This was the command, right? Now if I restart my system, my machine, if I restart, then definitely this would be closed, the command prompt would be closed, my Jenkins server would also be down. Now when you want, after the restart, now you want your Jenkins server to be up again, so you have to open a command prompt and run this command again. So this you have to do it again and again post restart, right? Now which you do not want to do. You want Jenkins to be up automatically once your system is up. Getting my point? So for that, you install it as a service. Even Nexus also we can install it as a service. If you remember, Nexus, like even today also, now if you want your Nexus to be up, now you have shut down your system, you have started it again on a day, then you have to get that Nexus up by running the that nexus.exe/run command again from the command prompt, right? So if
Yeah.
you do not want to do that and you want that Nexus or even Jenkins to be up automatically as soon as you start the system, you can have it installed as a service and you can set that service to be running automatic here. So it will start the Jenkins without you starting it explicitly.
Okay. So let's say if I have installed through MSI file and if I go to settings, then can I, change any properties so that it runs automatically even after restart?
No, you don't need to do it anything here. What you need to do is to make it run automatically. You have to go to services.
Yeah.
So here, services,
Yes.
and here you have to find the Jenkins
Yeah.
and right click and go to properties
Okay.
and then set this startup type to automatic.
So if we do this, then every time we restart the system, then Jenkins will
Yeah,
start
it
off.
would be up. Yeah.
Previously, I mean, I'm not sure, but when I just closed my Jenkins and when I was opening, it was not opening. So I just came to this services, I stopped it, again I started it, only then it started running.
But what was the status here? What was the status you were seeing here? This
Don't
should be
observe
running.
that.
You should see the status here as running.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So just make sure
Okay.
that okay, right now just set it to automatic. Okay, and stop and start the service again, and then check once you restart the system. It should be
All
up.
right. All right. Yeah, I'll check it.
Okay. Now then, yeah, what I was talking about is, yeah, here, security. So basically, here, authentication, disable remember me. If I check this, then it will not show me this checkbox. Do you see? Keep me signed in. So this checkbox will not be shown to the user and he has to log in every time, right? If that is what you want, then you have to do that as a security measure, that your user should always log in, right? That is the setting. Then comes the this security again. Yeah, this one, allow users to sign up. So if we set this, right, see here, with sign up enabled, anyone on your network can become an authenticated user. So user would, like, who is starting the Jenkins, or I mean accessing that Jenkins for the first time, he will get a sign up page, and then he would be able to, the way we sign up on, let's say, Gmail or any other website, right, for the first time. So your users would be able to sign up and then they would be able to use it, the user system. So this is something which you would like to do if you do not want to create your users on your own and then give them the access. If you do not want that, and if you want your Jenkins system to be available for for all the people from your organization without you explicitly allowing them the access, so you can set this setting and then they would be able to sign up, they would be able to create their username, their own username, password, and then they would be able to use your system. So this is that setting. Then this authorization. Now authorization means who can do what. Authentication is where you check if a particular user is a valid user or not. That is authentication, which you do with the help of credentials, username, password. But authorization is where the user is inside the system now. But now what you want that user to do with this Jenkins system. So by default logged in users can do anything, means they can create the new jobs, they can run the jobs, they can delete the existing jobs, even they can install the plugin, so they can do anything they want to do with this. But if you do not want that and you want to have some kind of a security, then you can provide that security also. I will show you that also. Let's click on this matrix based, and here you can add a user. Let me add a user, a new user. So let's say 3. So Pranodai123 is a new user, but it is not yet there. So let me add the user first. Just a moment. In the system, I need to add the user for this to work. So let me leave and let me go to people. And just a minute, let me add the users. Let me go to manage Jenkins, and here users, and let me create a new user. So I would say a new user. So this is how you can create new users for your team members, right? So let me say Pranodai 123. Pranodai 123 is the password again. Okay, let me create the user. I have created the new user. Now let's go to the, now by default this user will have all the access. Let me log out and log in with that user. And sign in. So see, this user is now Pranodai123. You can see the name. But now this user has all the access. Now let me log in with the admin user. And provide some access. Just a minute. Yeah. So let's go to manage Jenkins. Let's scroll down and let's go to this security. Let's scroll down a bit, and here in the authorization, let's click on this matrix based. Let's add the user. Here I'll say Pranodai123. This is the user which we just added, and now we want to assign that user some permissions, right? So I want to give him the permissions of read. Okay, he should be able to, now you can see here these are the job related permissions, these are the job execution related permissions, and these are the view dashboard related permissions. So let's say for a job, I just want that user to be able to read. Okay, the dashboard also you should be able to only see. There is some junior person. Now for that junior person, you do not want to give him the access of the jobs, like he should not be able to delete the job, he should not be able to create, he should only be able to see. Let's say that is the only permission you want to provide him, right? So you can provide the permissions here. So overall read permissions, Then the credential section, do you want to provide him any kind of a permission to that credential section, which usually we don't provide. The credential section is only for some senior kind of people who are going to manage the different credentials. We will talk about credentials. Then agent. So agent is where you set up a distributed build, and whether you want to give a permission to a user to add an agent or delete an agent, and that. This is the main thing, job, like pipelines. So do you want to give a permission to any user to build a job? Build means run a job, then configure the job. So whether you want him to go inside it and change any kind of configurations there, create. So do you want that particular person to be able to create a job, delete a job, right? Discover means search a job. Then these permissions also. So these are all the permissions which I have just given the read permissions to this particular user. Okay, and now let's save, and let me log out and log in with that other user. And you can see he can only just see few options here. I mean, no other options are shown to this user now. Now let's create one simple job. Okay, I know we have not yet understood what is the job, but I just wanted to show you what what are those implications of those permissions actually which I had given there. So just that, I am not going to run anything there. Just wanted to show you how the permissions apply. So I'll just again log in with my username. And let's go to the here. I'll just add one more job, just something like my job, something like that. Freestyle and OK. I'll not configure anything for now. Let's keep it as is. Let's go to the dashboard. Now I'm able to see the job. I can go inside it. I can configure. If I want to change any configurations, then I can do it, right? But the other user which we had just created, he do not have any permissions to configure or change anything in the job. I can run the job here, right? Now let me log out and log in with that other user. So he can see, but he do not have that run button here. If he goes inside, he is not allowed to change any config, because basically he is not able to see the configure window even, right? So he can only see the builds which have been executed so far, right? But he is not able to change anything there. Any configurations he is not able to change. He can even not be able to run the job, right? So this is how you can restrict, and that that is very much needed, because you cannot give the configuration rights to any junior DevOps engineer in your team. You definitely would like to restrict. So what you can do is you can create a group of users. I will show you that also. Let's say junior engineer, senior engineer, kind of, and accordingly you can provide the permissions. So what you can do is you can go to manage Jenkins. You can scroll down. You can go here, and then here you can create the users as I have created it, right? And then let's go and let me uh, just a minute. Let me now go to the security again. Let's scroll down. Okay, so the junior DevOps I need to add. Okay, I'll add it afterwards. But let's, for time being, let's give this particular user a configuration rights. So this Pranodaya 123 user, I want to give the configuration rights. Okay, and I would give him this configure rights, and let's say I want to give him the run rights. Run meaning this, just a second, build. Okay, these are the rights I have given him now. Let me save, and now let's log in. Now you can see here this particular user has got the run button. He can go inside and change the configuration of the job also, right? But you can very well restrict the access by using the security here, right? So you can provide these configure and execute rights. Rather, configure rights should only be vests with the senior DevOps engineer, and the junior person should only be able to run the build, run the job. That's it, and he should only be able to see the build execution results. But he should not be able to configure anything, or he should not be able to even delete. So the delete is also not available to this particular person, right? I can give the delete rights also if I wish to. So let me go to manage Jenkins. We go to this people. So here you can see all the current users, right? Let me go to manage Jenkins again. Go to the security, and let's change the rights. So now I want this particular person to be able to delete the job. Now still he doesn't have the create rights. You see, he doesn't have this create right. He do not have. He is not able to create any new jobs. Let me save. Let me log out and log in. So now this particular person, he would be able to delete the job. Okay, I'll show you again by removing that delete permission there. I'll show you that permission that particular person won't see here. Okay, let's log out and log in with the admin. Let's go to the manage Jenkins. Let's scroll down. Let's go to the security. Let's scroll, not here, right? Let's scroll up here, yeah, and here let me revoke this permission delete from this user. Let's save. Let's log out. And now let's see here. You can see that person doesn't have the delete permission here, right? So this is how you can restrict. And now this, as this particular person doesn't have any create permission, right? So he is not able to see any create link over here to create a new job. Now if I give him the rights, he would be able to create the jobs. Now let's go to the Jenkins, manage Jenkins. Let's go to the security. Let's scroll down and let's give him the rights to create. So I'll give him all the rights. Let's say create, even delete rights also I would give him. Right, so I have given him the rights. Let's save. Let's log out and let's log in with that particular user's credential. Now he would be able to create. Do you see here new item link? So this link is only available to the person who is allowed to create new jobs. And now that this person can see the delete also. So where he can delete the job. Very simple, right? So you can manage the access. So if you can go here, so you can go to this credentials. So here this person can see his details out here. Then the builds which the person has executed. What is build we will talk about, but I just want you guys to see these things. Then this configure is that person's own information configuration, like or the name. If he wants to change the name, he can do it. Then password, if he wants to change, he can change it, right? And that information he can see over here. Let me log out and log in with that. Right, so let's scroll down. Security. Right, so this is what about this security. This we will talk about a little later, the agent and all, and API token also we will talk about later, because this is something which you would use if you want to access Jenkins programmatically, but that is not something which you do on a regular basis. So this is not used much. I mean, you basically access the Jenkins through this UI itself, like you log in inside the Jenkins system and you access it. But this particular use case is not very common to access it programmatically. Jenkins, usually people uses Jenkins through the UI only, but afterwards we will see this. Then let's come back to this manage Jenkins page and let's get inside this credentials section. So what is this credentials section? So basically Jenkins requires to access Git repository, right? So to pull the code from there, to push the, not push, but at least pull the code and run the job, right? So if your Git repository has got the username and password, right? So credentials there. So Jenkins, if it needs to access that Git repository to pull the code, so those credentials should also be there with Jenkins, right? Using those credentials, Jenkins will access your Git repository and will pull it. So those credentials you can create here. Right here, you can create those credentials using add credential. So you can say add credential and here username with password, right? Then you can keep this as is, the global one, and then here you will provide the username of your Git repository and the password of your Git repository. Okay, and then you will provide some name to this credential entry, some unique name, and then you will create. So this credential would be created, and then in your Jenkins job or pipeline, you would be able to access these credentials, and then Jenkins would be able to access your Git repository with the help of these credentials, and then it would be able to pull the code. We will see this once we will integrate Jenkins with our Git repository. We do not have yet seen those things, so that's why I'm not able to explain you it further. But the point is, this particular setting is going to be very important for us, because when we would be integrating our Jenkins with Git, and our Git repository has the credentials, so those credentials should be with Jenkins, otherwise Jenkins will not be able to access the repository and would not be able to pull your code. So there we need to create the credential entry with the username and password of our Git repository, and we need to use this credential in our Jenkins job so that Jenkins can access the Git and pull the code. So this we will use once we will start creating our jobs for our library project. Then let's scroll down, and credential provider is something which is of not of much use in terms of the regular use case, but still I would explain you this right now. Yeah, this credential provider is, so basically if you just check this and like add, so just a minute, let me just, so here you can add the provider. Provider means let's say you want to have a single sign-on. Single sign-on meaning, let's say if there is some active directory configured. Active directory is where username and passwords are configured for the users, and you want to get the credentials from those active directory, or let's say Azure. On Azure there is a system for which gives us the service principals and service tokens and all that. So if you want to integrate that with your Jenkins, then you can do that with the help of this. But as I told you, like, this is not something which is done by us. I mean, this is something which the administrator of that particular system takes care of. So that's why we do not have the much of the use case for this setting. Users we have already talked about, that here you can create and delete different users. Then you can go inside the setting of the user, you can change the name of that user, you can change the password of that particular user, right? So those things you can do it. Then let's move on to the next one is this system log. So here you can see the Jenkins log basically. So what Jenkins is doing. So you can see the Jenkins logs. When you start the Jenkins with the help of that war file in a command prompt, you would be able to see your logs here in the command prompt itself. But when you have started it as a service, and if you now want to see Jenkins logs, if you are getting few issues there, like I am currently having the issues with the plugin installation. So what is the error I am getting in the Jenkins, right? I want to see that, but I won't be able to see this if I am starting the Jenkins as a service, because I don't have any window which will show me the errors here. Like currently my Jenkins is running with that Java command, so that command prompt is showing me these errors here. But in your case, where you are running your Jenkins as a service, you won't be having any window to show you the logs there, right? So if you want to see those, then you can see the Jenkins logs here. Manage Jenkins, and just scroll down and go to this. See here, system log, and you can check the logs. What is the problem? So I am getting the same errors here. The errors which I get here on the command prompt, I get to see those errors here also. So this is how you can debug what is the problem currently with your Jenkins system, if at all it is having any, then what are those problems. So you can see those logs here, right? So this is just a logging of the Jenkins system. Let's come back to the manage Jenkins and let's go inside the system information. So here you can see the information of the Jenkins system, meaning what are the plugins the Jenkins, your current Jenkins instances having installed, then what are those versions of those plugins, and that information you can see here. Memory usage, it can show you the memory usage of the Jenkins. So you can see here, if your system has appeared to be slow, let's say, and now you want to check how much memory a Jenkins instance is consuming, then you can come here and check. Okay, so you can select the long as a time span, and then it will show you the memory usage for a relatively longer period of time. Then medium and short. So these are the options you have to see the memory usage of your Jenkins. So if the Jenkins is proving to be a bottleneck, let's say, so that you can get to know about this here. Then you can see different values here. I'll just click here and it will show me your Jenkins is getting executed with which war file it is actually executing to run the server, so that you can see here. Then other environment variables or other settings Jenkins instance is using, you can see those settings here. You have to just click here and it will show you the value. So say Java home, which Java it is using, it will show you here. Then Java class version, then Java class path. So those things you would be able to see the settings. Then just a second, and then these are the main things are like user directory. So which is the current user in the sense on your system, not in the Jenkins. Then user home directory, current user's home, and the username, the current logged in user, right, and that information. So that information you can see, Asia Calcutta is the IST time zone. So this system information you would be able to see here. Plugins you would be able to see. Environment variables, if you scroll down. So whatever the environment variables you have in your system here, these environment variables I am talking about in your systems. So what environment variables you have? You can see here I have an Android home set, right? So Android home, you can see this is the same value here. So this particular section shows you the environment section or the environment settings in which the particular Jenkins instance is running. In short, your own system environment variables, right? So it will show you all those environment variables. I have these many environment variables set on my machine. Okay, so it will show you all those environment variables here in this window. Then let's come back to the manage Jenkins and scroll down a bit, and about Jenkins. So here it will show you the information about the Jenkins itself, like which version of the Jenkins you are using, and that information you would be able to see. And these are those dependencies of the Jenkins, memorized dependencies which Jenkins uses. So plugins information. So plugin information also you would be get it. You would be able to get it from here. So this is about the current Jenkins instance. Let's scroll down and yeah, Jenkins CLI. Jenkins CLI is like, as I just told you, that Jenkins can be controlled using this UI. So you can run the job, you can create a new job by interacting with the different elements on the UI of the Jenkins. But if you want to interact with the Jenkins through commands, like the way we interact with Maven, mvn compile, mvn build, mvn this, mvn that. So that is a command line interface. So similarly, you can interact with the Jenkins with the help of its command line, that is called CLI. So if you click here, you would be able to see the command lines here. Like if I want to run a particular job, I can run the command. So I have to just download the CLI jar, which is a command line interface, and I have to run this command. So if you want to, let's say, build a job, so you can see how to build it. So what you have to do is, you have to simply execute this command. -s would be the URL of your Jenkins. You will say build, and then you will specify the name of the job or name of the particular Jenkins pipeline which you want to execute. So this command, if you execute from the command line, you would be able to trigger the job. You don't need to log in inside the system and interact with the Jenkins through UI of it. You can do it from the command line. We will see this once we will create the jobs. So we will see this, how to run the Jenkins job through command line. So that is Jenkins CLI, command line interface. Right, and this is it. This is about the manage Jenkins settings in the Jenkins. So we will see mainly this thing, Jenkins CLI, how to trigger, basically how to trigger the job through Jenkins command line interface. Maybe we will also see how to create a job through that command line interface, how to export the jobs, or how to import maybe the jobs which are configured, pre-configured. So how to import them in the existing instance. So those few commands we will see once we will start writing the jobs.